All right, I'm back again with Brendan Richards. We're at Saltwater Edge here in Newport, Rhode Island, doing some video work for you guys for the magazine. This question, I wish I had asked the other guys actually, because I think
it would have been interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think that is a fun one to ask of anybody who does any surf casting, and that's that, I think you fish a pretty wide variety of terrain in striped bass world. I mean, especially guys who are more relegated to just fishing a sand beach because that's really all they've got.
Yeah.
You fish a good variety. I want to know, what's your favorite? What's your favorite place to fish? Why?
Well, all right. Favorite's a loaded term because that's different than best and productive.
Okay, so we'll do both.
Well, I'm going to say, that's already figured it out. But because I guess there's going to be a caveat there. Favorite in terms of what brings me joy to fish, and I get a personal history with, it's jetties and inlets. As dumb as that sounds, it's just, the further we get into fishing, we love to reinvent the wheel and get too smart for ourselves. I am still floored to this day when you dumb it down and go fish a jetty or an inlet, how fishy they are and how productive they are.
Yeah.
They have moving water, a lot of moving water. Moving water is great because it concentrates bait and it concentrates fish. At that point, when the tide's really moving in those spots, there's places where they're going to be and places where they're not going to be. You have stuff that's going to work, you have stuff that's not going to work. And you basically have to figure out one or two things, and then you should be into fish. Pretty great. I mean, and you don't have to get wet, and you don't have to do a lot of too wet. And it's a very genteel way of fishing, even though a jetty is a pretty rugged place. In terms of productive places that have been really good to me in terms of big fish, it's where you have different factors converging, I would say. And that could be different current profiles, like you have fast and slow intermingling, you have still and moving, and along with that you have different types of bottom structure and stuff like that. Sand meets rocks, you have rocks with no growth, rocks with lots of growth, big kelp beds, stuff like that out there. And big fish water is one of those things, it never ever looks like much. And I'm not even going to use the term to the untrained eye, because to me, I still don't, you fall ass backwards into them a lot of the time, or something very minute may catch your eye and you just kind of peck away at it. But the unifying factor I have found in all of them, the ones that I like, the ones that have been best to me, is when you have those differences all kind of present and kind of commingling. And it's not unusual that all those things kind of go together. It's, water moves over sand differently than it moves over rocks, and moves differently than it does around rocks. So it's not unusual that you find all of these things together. And I think also too, is we love to think about, striped bass in moving water, because we always want to fish moving water. That's what everyone's told. It's like you gotta fish moving water. That they're like a big fat brown trout holed up behind a log someplace, and they're just sitting there waiting for the bait to go by. They go, ooh, and they're sitting there waiting for the bait to go by, ooh, they jump out and grab it. Fish don't do that. Yeah. So that's not what's going on out there. And I think they're swimming around a lot more than we like, or we have a hard time imagining it. And really what I think is going on is they use those differences to their advantage, and they can kind of move easily through their environment utilizing those differences. And they're not thinking about doing this, it's a fish, but they follow the path of least resistance, and they know how to use the path of least resistance to find food. And I think they can do that in those spots where you have that many things present at once.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So. That's amazing. But I have to ask you, I got to say this.
Yeah.
So you've told me, what sort of speaks to you, and then another example of what's been productive for big fish.
Here we go.
Why not fish the Breachway all the time then? Why, if you love it, what makes you go away from it?
I mean, do you want to go stand in a line of 20 guys from Connecticut who this is their 8th time fishing all year? No, I don't think I want to go do that. No. So that's reason number one. I'm not a rotation person. I have no good rotation stories, no good rotation interactions.
That's funny.
My surf partner of many years, Jamel Ajaj, loves fishing the fucking breachways, and he has managed to drag me there on several occasions, and I hate every second of it. But variety is great though too. At the same time, and it's like the type of jetties that I like, and the type of inlets that I like. Like a more naturalized inlet's a great thing. We in Rhode Island we're lucky to have those if you know where to look for them. They're not dredged all hell and back, or they're not super built up. They're more, this is the mouth of an estuary type of a thing, and you're fishing an inlet, but it's kind of like more of a classic surf casting situation. Not every jetty gets a ton of pressure once the sun goes down. I would say some of them are just totally left alone, and you'd be surprised at fishing the more unpopular ones.
What's your least favorite?
Oh my God.
What's like some kind of structure that you hate?
Anything that I have to wade deeper than this to get to is probably what I would say.
You're not a skishing guy.
I'm not a skishing guy. I'm not even a wetsuit guy. I hate fishing in a wetsuit, honestly, because it's like, imagine you're going to go hiking with a blood pressure cuff all over your entire body, and then you're going to get in the water and go way too far out. And, and I was the 7-year-old who was afraid of the shark in the pool. So it's like, it's not a great combination. I do it out of necessity because you get like a little better angle. You get that distance can sometimes do something. That little tippy toe hop, out there gets you that little extra. But I don't like to have my feet leave the bottom. So anything that's too far out, yeah, no way, no.
Yeah, I feel that, especially as we're seeing more and more sharks.
Yeah, no.
And more southern species like the big bad bull making its way up here.
Yeah.
Things become fairly intense.
Yeah.
Now, but you do push yourself, and you fish again a great variety of
I
estuary
do.
and boulder fields,
Yeah,
and sand
yeah.
and jetty and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of anglers out there right now who wish that they could push themselves to fish more kinds of water.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for them about how to branch out or how to approach that?
I mean, for starters, you got to find some place that, like, you may be interested in going. And, we live in the era of Google Earth, so it's like that's never been easier. Problem is, it's like you can show up and you may not have access to what looked great on Google Earth. I was in southern Maine around Saco River this past summer, and all these places look great, and you show up and it's like, oh, this parking sucks, or it's it's just not feasible.
Impossible.
Yeah, no, and so like that. I mean, that's the way to find it. You have to be okay with not catching anything either, because that's how you get outside of your comfort zone. And so, I mean, it's crazy how many people have a phobia about that, or like a neuroticism about not catching fish.
Sure.
And I think, I don't know, maybe social media has something to do with that. Like,
Yep.
Or if I go someplace after I go fishing, like if I go to a brewery or a coffee shop or something, I know I'm going to get the question, what brings you out here? And if I say fishing, I know what the next question is, did you catch anything? And I hate saying fucking no to that question, because you just feel like an idiot at that point. Like, no, I didn't. Yeah. So I do get it, but like you got to get over you never try anything new. You never get good at anything new in fishing if you don't get past that fear of just not catching. So,
Yeah, you have to be comfortable with not catching.
yeah, you have to make your peace with that, and no one does it all the time. I don't care
I'm
what it
terrible
actually
at it.
looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm terrible at it too. So, great advice. Get out there. Don't be afraid of not catching, and get yourself on a jetty this season.